Howdy folks, Dreadshells here, and welcome back to World of Tanks. I have another game to show you guys today in a scout on a city map, and this particular game is played in my RU-251, the Tier 8 German scout tank, and we are on the Pilsen map, the Czech map that was released a while back. It's actually been in the game a while. This map, a few words about the map before we start the game. This map is one of my most hated maps in World of Tanks. And it isn't because of the appearance of the map. I actually think this map is actually one of the best looking maps in the game, purely from a aesthetic design point of view, right? From an artistic point of view. The textures and the setting and how they've modeled things looks great. I hate this map a lot for the tactical reason of this map. This map is incredibly one-dimensional. This map is very, very one-sided. This map isn't very conducive to team play at all. You basically have the west 1, 2, 3 lines, and you have the east 8, 9, 0 lines, and they don't interact at all, right? Those are the two main flanks of the map. You have the center factory area here in E5, E6, F5, F6, where players peek and poke and look through these. I think there's double doors on the north and on the south here, and then there's a side opening here on the east side, where tanks peek and poke and trade shots with enemy tanks that are sitting directly across from them. But this map is almost impossible to play in a scout because everyone would say, well, you can go over here to the 890 lines. You have a couple bushes that you can use. The bushes don't really work because they're really small, and if you look at, I think the north bush here is in D8, something like that. If you look at the distance to where the you'll be spotting enemy tanks as they cross, it's literally only like 250 meters or so. So you will half the time you get spotted when you use these bushes anyway. So generally if you're trying to get early spots on the enemy team movement as they go out into the field here, looking here on the mini map, they leave their spawn and they go out here like this. Generally you have to do this active roll scout along this 9-line ridge, right? And then loop back around. That's generally what I do. In lower tier games, it's not quite as bad because tanks have less view range, and then you are a little bit safer. And your camo rating means more. But in a tier 10 game, your camo rating means absolutely nothing on this map because the engagement distances are really close. And some of you might say, well, you know, this map has a brawl area over here on the 1, 2, 3 lines, and it has a more open area on the 890 lines, right? Wrong. This 890 line area over here is not quote-unquote open. It might appear open, but how these hills and ridges play here on this E9, F9 area and E0 and F0 area, this is a brawling area too. And you can't play on the 7 and 8 lines here because it's really open and exposed. You can get shot from snipers sitting back here in B9 and C9 if you're coming from the south spawn. You can get shot from tanks sitting here in these buildings right here in G8 and H8 if you're coming from the north spawn, and any enemy tanks that might be sitting back here in H9, H0, and enemy tanks that might be sitting in the brawl area just have to move a little bit and they can shoot you if you're playing in the 7-8 area, 7-8 line area rather. So this area here is suicide, at least early to mid game. This area is suicide. So and the 90 lines are brawling areas, and it's very difficult to push the 90 lines because they have supporting sniping areas, right? The north has this B9, B0 area, and the south spawn, although their support position is actually lower than the middle here compared to the north being higher, they can still support. So it's very difficult to actually push and flank the enemy on this side of the map because there's so many defending positions from multiple angles of which to shoot an attacking enemy. And of course, you know, tanks always sit here on the corners of this middle factory area here in G7 and in D7. So this open area, quote unquote, out here in the 890 lines isn't really that open. It's actually more of a brawling area as well. And then you have the city area over here in on the 123 lines, which you basically have the one line, which is kind of a shooting corridor for enemy tanks that sit in J1 and in B1, and of course the tanks that sit up close along these two robo piles here. And then you have the 3 line, and then you have tanks in peek and poke that trade in this kind of this E2 F2 area that side scrape on these middle doors right here. But it's all linear, right? Just think about all the areas that I just listed. How are the angles of attack? The 1 line, vertical, right? The 2 line, vertical. The 3 line, vertical. These doors on these center factory area here, where you peek and poke with the enemy, they're vertical as well. And this area out here in the field, the area where you're engaging the enemy, is vertical as well. And there's no place where you can flank the enemy without getting wrecked if they have semi-competent support. So I know that was a really long ramble about this map, but I really hate this map, and it's probably in my top 3, if not my number 1 most hated map in World of Tanks. It's tactically a very terrible map, and I really hope that Wargaming down the road will either remove it or rework it so it's more dynamic and allows tanks that don't have armor to actually be able to do something on this map. So anyway, enough rambling. We are in a tier 10 game in my RU-251. I actually choose to just throw in the towel and don't even care about going to the 890 lines in this particular game. I should at least probably do a roll scout out here before I loop back and decide what to do from there. But I was getting really bad maps in my map rotation in this particular play session, and I was getting really frustrated. So I just basically threw in the towel and decided to actually go over into the city. And the last video that I showed you guys in my WZ131 on Kharkov about talking about what to do and not to do on the city map, you guys will see that I do what you're not supposed to do on a city map. But it's kind of funny what ends up happening in spite of it. So I know that I'm a really fast tank, right? So going over here to the 123 lines, I can do this kind of this active roll scout through the 3, 2, and 1 lines and then loop back around, although it's very dangerous because enemy tanks might post up and then shoot me as I'm retreating. You can kind of get some diagonal vision into that door that I just looked at sometimes, and I'm peeking this 1 line really early. I have a T-30 in support. If you look on the minimap, I have a T-30 in support back here in C1, so if any tanks would like to start and push me, he can shoot them at least once. See a Waffle Panzer IV there, and I immediately load X high explosive, and I'm really lucky. I do a really dumb peek and poke right there, right? Gonna pause the game. I'm doing exactly what you're not supposed to be doing in a light tank and on a city map, right? I'm peeking and poking with tanks that have more hit points and more alpha than me, right? Because I have less armor generally, usually, although I'm fighting a Waffle 4, so our armor is about the same. But he has more hit points than I do, and a better gun than I do, and I actually should not be doing this at all. And even though I can load high explosive here and pen his turret really easily with high explosive, if we continue to trade shot for shot, he would actually win the fight. And I'm actually really lucky that he had high explosive loaded, and I'm really lucky that he didn't pen his high explosive shot. I'm not sure where. Oh, it's hard to see. I don't know, maybe it hit my turret mantlet or something. I'm really lucky that he didn't pen. And I have my T-30 back here in support. But now what has happened because I'm in this position? I've trapped myself, right? Look at where the Foch 155 is over here. I can't retreat back this way because the Waffle will just drive around and shoot around this rubble pile and shoot me. And I can't retreat through this way either. If you look on the minimap, I can't do this because the Foch 155 and anyone else over here can shoot me. So I've trapped myself, right? And that's what you're trying not to do in scouts in a city map. And I find a T-30, and I almost crap my pants, and I'm like, oh, that's a big, big gun. But luckily, the T-30 misses us, luckily, in spite of my really bad choice. And I think the T-30 shell actually hit the hit the pillar that supports these pipes up here. So luckily, that pillar ate the shot for me, and I didn't take any more damage. The T-30 on my team takes out the Wotreplays 4. And now I'm in a high pressure situation, right? And I'm deciding to relocate and get back on at least this side of the 2-line factory area. I'll explain why I did that. Right now, there's a T-30 here and an Object 704. And even though between me and the T-30 on my team, we killed this Wotreplays 4, there's 2 big alpha guns right here, right? And there's only one here on my team for the T-30, and he's already taken damage. So he'll probably be really, really hesitant to peek around and shoot those tanks to support me. Because he might actually end up dying if he takes damage from both these tanks. So what I end up doing here is I see that the enemy are starting to get aggressive here in the center horizontal street here between our 123 line factory and their 123 line factory, and I decide to move back here and start to shoot this mouse in the side and use this rubble pile here for cover as I'm doing so. Really bad shot there in third person. I should have taken my time and aimed. Really bad to shoot the mouse in the turret there. Pause the game again here. Sorry I'm pausing so much, but there's a lot going on. Something to explain real quick: when you're shooting the side of a mouse and you're playing in a scout, especially that doesn't have a lot of pen, especially when you have premium ammo that's heat and not APCR, don't shoot the mouse in the side of the turret if you have a complete 90-degree shot on the hull of the mouse. If you have the side of the turret and the side of the hull, where you need to shoot the mouse is this kind of upper half area of his hull, right? The side of the turret here is actually more thickly armored than the side of his hull. Don't shoot the lower half of his hull because that's where his tracks are, and that adds a lot more effective armor, and it's spaced armor because it's tracks and it eats a lot of shells. But this upper half or to upper third area of his hull is where you want to shoot the mouse in the side if you have his side flat on. And especially with them buffing the mouse in the last patch, it's a lot more strong. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. If you ever run across a mouse in a scout tank and you do have enough pen to pen him at all, and you have his side, shoot this upper third of his hull is the weakest part of the side of it, and don't shoot the side of his turret. You see there, I adjust my aim. His hull was angled there by the time I was reloaded, so I just went for the back of the turret there. Sometimes you can get lucky and actually damage the ammo rack of the mouse from where I'm shooting back there. I believe is where the ammo rack module is located on the mouse. And we're able to do a significant amount of damage to the mouse here, and you can really see the power of the DPM of the RU-251. The base DPM of the RU-251 is 2400, which doesn't seem very good when you're talking about tier 10 mediums like the STB1 that has almost like 3000 DPM, I think. But it's really, really respectable for a tier 8 scout. And you can get the damage per minute up to almost 3000 with the RU-251 with equipment and crew skills. During that entire engagement, I was really, really lucky that this Emil 2 decided to wait to push around from his position in F1 until we had already killed the mouse. If he had pushed around, I would have been dead, because I would have been trapped in between the mouse and him and the Foch 1155 and Object 704 that were over here. So this is more down to luck of me being in the situation that I am, luck that the enemy was making bad decisions, than it is of me making good decisions. Me being over here and fighting the way I am and brawling with tier 10 tanks is actually really, really bad. But I'm doing what I can despite my bad positioning, and I'm trying to stay alive and use the what cover I can to keep myself safe from enemy fire. So now that the mouse is dead, our team can turn and focus on this Emil 2. We tracked the Emil 2 there, but he still had his repair kit, so he repaired. Shoot the Emil on the side. Now I know that my next shot, I'm going to have a side or rear shot on him, so I load a high explosive shell. And the Swedish heavy tanks, the Emil 1, the Emil 2, and the Kronwagen, they might have really strong armor in the front, you know, the frontal turret armor and decent hull armor, but they're super weak in the back of the turret, the back half side of the turret, and the back of the hull. So if you ever get the back of a Swedish tank, especially in an RU that has really high pen and high explosive shells, load some high explosive shells and you'll be likely to be penning them. Just like the back of American heavies as well too. Right now I'm just letting my Object 263 tank this T-30 right, letting him expose himself whenever the T-30 is reloaded, and as soon as the T-30 is reloaded, then I move around and shoot the T-30. So I was able to actually sneak a shot. My first shot on the Foch 155 there was kind of funny because I sneaked the shot in between my teammate 263 there, between his gun and his hull as he was driving across my line of fire, and luckily I didn't accidentally shoot the 263 there. But the battle cascaded very quickly there in the 1-2-3 lines over here. And for some bizarre reason, I'm still alive. I should not be alive. I went to a really bad position and was brawling with tier 10 tanks, but it ended up working. Really bad shot there with my HE shell. I should be going for the turret there and not the tracks. Even a Gorilla 15 who has really bad armor. If you're shooting high explosive, avoid the spaced armor of tanks and shoot the normal thin armor of the vehicle, as in this case with the Gorilla 15, the turret or the back of the hull on his engine deck. And you can see that the DPM there of the RU-251 is really powerful when you get to shoot your enemy over and over again. So kind of a really funny match here on Pilsen in the RU-251 where I went to a really bad position. What I should have done at the start of the game here is roll scout the 8-9 lines and kind of do this loop. If you follow the cursor, follow this loop around, spot the enemy dispersion into the 8-9-0 lines, and decide to where to go from there to support my team. I didn't want to go out into the 9-0 lines at all, even with our number 2 medium platoon here, because the enemy still had 3 tier 9 mediums, and they had an M48 Patton, and they could have sent who else knows what, probably the 1390. And I just didn't feel like brawling at close range with all these mediums and whatever other tank destroyers might be supporting them there at very close range out here on the 9-0 lines. So I was really frustrated, and I said, to heck with it, I'm going to the city at the start of the game, and whatever happens, happens. And luckily, due to the enemy not being aggressive at the right times and allowing me to retreat whenever I needed to, I was able to turn this game into a good supporting role for my team. So I was able to be proactive here in the middle and do a lot of damage to the enemy. And luckily, the enemy just ignored me. Like, the mouse completely ignored me as he was preoccupied with my teammates here in E2. And the Emil 2 completely ignored me too and waited until we had killed his mouse teammate before he decided to come around and start shooting. But yeah, I was really lucky, and I positioned myself kind of badly. But we were able to have a good game out of it. I want to thank you guys for watching this video and being willing to listen to my rambling about why I don't like this map here at the start of the video. Wish you guys the best of luck out there on playing on Pilsen, and hope you can make something work on this terrible map. Happy hunting and take care.